Hey guys, Omni here. We have our breakdown for episode 1 of She-Hulk. I'm sorry I'm a little late to getting to this, guys, but they had this locked and loaded and ready to drop Thursday. I imagine they got the first 2 episodes early, like a bunch of other people ended up getting. So they got to work on this and have it locked and loaded and ready to go for the day everything dropped. And then I got hit with that surprise Sandman episode 11, the bonus episode of the season that just dropped last night, and I've been working on that today on top of my 9 to 5 and all that. So been a little busy, so I do apologize that this one is late. Hopefully next week goes a little more smoothly. To kind of like add on to that, because there was a video that Eric dropped yesterday talking about the VFX magicry that was done on the first episode, because I've been seeing this a lot lately here today, especially that episode 1, I guess this origin story for She-Hulk was originally planned to be episode 8 of a 9 episode season. So like I don't understand that, and I can't wait to get the story behind that and just kind of see what happened. But there's some elements in this that were taken from episode 8 and placed here to kind of get her origin out of the way a little bit sooner. So I'm really curious to kind of dive into that. Now, the breakdown itself doesn't have Eric in it. He was away getting married, so they had somebody standing in for him. I know he doesn't watch these videos, but just in case he does, congrats, man. I hope it went smooth. I'm glad you're back, and hopefully it's smooth sailing from here, man. But guys, that all said, if you haven't seen my reaction, go check it out. If you're not subscribed to New Rockstars, go check them out. Subscribe. They are amazing when it comes to these breakdowns, man. So let's go ahead and dive into, we're going to start off with just the simple breakdown, then we'll go to the VFX video here afterwards. Here we go.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemens, and while Voss was busy falling in love and getting married, lucky, he asked me to help break down the She-Hulk series for you. This first episode is so fun and funny, and I didn't know cousins could be so close. I have a ton of cousins, but we hate each other. Every time we're together, we just fight. Let's just break down this first episode shot by shot, take a look at all the MCU Easter eggs and details we missed. Like Voss, I promise to keep this business and professional, and I won't bark for She-Hulk. Let's get into it.
The Marvel Studios title card has now been updated with a shot of Our Lady Thor from Thor Love and Thunder replacing his last name as Rocket. And then they put back on the M after Thor Love and Thunder my Jordan wearing dragon riding Shang-Chi from Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings.
We open to a close-up of Jennifer Walters giving what at first feels like her audition tape for She-Hulk, but she's actually practicing her closing argument in her office. We have a little clip right here.
What is the responsibility of those with power? Do they
I
merely
really
have
like this monologue.
an obligation to refrain from the misuse of that power? Or do they have a duty to protect those without it?
Okay, so this opening perfectly reflects what we'll see between lawyer Jennifer Walters just wanting to be an anonymous lawyer and She-Hulk, icon, superhero, public figure extraordinaire, who at times in the comics has been known to use her name and presence unjustifiably. I mean, who wouldn't? You're a Hulk. As she practices, the camera pans out and we slowly get a full view of Jen's very 30 lawyer-like office. She's a busy woman and she works hard for the money.
I work hard for the money.
The lawyery type female-driven show is already presenting itself, and I stand for it. We see some
I love
books,
it, man.
Barron's Business Law, Courtroom 101, her encyclopedias, Badass Women by Rachel Walsh and Bill O'Neill.
I suspect that's a picture with her uncle. Seeing as the stylized credits, we see a courtroom illustration of her family at dinner, and that man resembles the bald-headed glasses-wearing fellow.
We have a bobblehead of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Michelle Obama, a little Ally McBeal, the graduating Barrington Wisdom class owl, along with another little owl below. Owls and lawyers have similar connections. They're intelligent, wise, efficient, they're nocturnal, plus they're just birds of prey, so they're recognized as the animals who represent a lot of law schools and departments. A ton of UCLA swag, along with her 2 degrees from UCLA. We're introduced to her 2 colleagues, the cheery, supportive best friend, Nikki Ramos, played by Ginger Gonzaga, the paralegal who's basically a lawyer trainee. They provide support to the lawyers, they can interview clients and witnesses and prepare documents for court. They're still very important folks. And underwhelmingly unsupportive Dennis Bukowski, played by Drew Matthews. Dennis in the comics was the assistant district attorney alongside Jennifer Walters, and they both hated each other. He was obnoxious and super annoying. I mean, just look at him. Behind Dennis, we get a nice framed photo
those
of the Griffith
glasses don't
Observatory in
scream,
Los Angeles. If you forgot
guy
this
you wanna
takes
hang
place
out
in
with.
Cali, let me remind you. Behind Nikki, we get the traditional brass justice weighing scales, which is completely for Jen doing law with no connection to Moon Knight. Khonshu, can you hear me? I'll be your vessel. We see Jennifer Walters, deputy district attorney, on her front door. Our girl is a prosecutor with her own office. The deputy district attorneys commonly work under the district attorney. This is also when Nikki mentions Jen was handpicked to go up against GLKH. And what we know from the trailers up until this point is 1, GLKH stands for Goodman, Lieber, Kurtz, Kurtzberg and Holloway, which is an homage to Martin Goodman, the founder of Alice Comics that later became Marvel, Lieber for Stan Lee's real last name, and Kurtzberg for Jack Kirby's formal last name, and Holloway, who is for Holden Holloway, the attorney at GLKH that hires She-Hulk to be the face of the firm's new superhero law division. And 2, they are prosecuting GLKH. That means this is probably a test by Holden to see Jen, aka She-Hulk, really at work. During the comics, Holloway offered the job to an intoxicated She-Hulk in a bar, but he always tested her limits and expected a lot from her. He could be testing her right now with Titania. We see a second pair of clothes, suit, jacket, and bottoms to cover Jen in case she hulks out. Additionally, a lot of lawyers keep extra clothes at their office for all-nighters, but I'm sure Jennifer has also learned her lesson from ripping out of her clothes.
Dude, all that Better Call Saul, man. I know that's not, like, that's only a fraction of the work that goes into some of the stuff that they do, but my lord, I definitely get it.
This is when Jen breaks the fourth wall. It's so satisfying. Not only have we seen similar scenes like this in Fleabag, I have to. That's my Fleabag tattoo. Saved by the Bell, even Deadpool. This gag is comedy stage media gold, separating fact from fiction. It shows that they don't take themselves too seriously, but also can give us, the audience, much more information. My years in theater and improv have led to this moment. We transition to Bruce and Jen's trip driving through the woods of California. It's playing Money on It by Together Pangea, a band based out of Santa Clarita, California. This episode oozes California 30-something-year-old regardless, but the added music is sort of an indie Cali vibe, so a mini bonus. We find out Bruce has been able to stay in human form because he created the device called the inhibitor, though keep in mind it hasn't fully helped him heal. We saw him wearing in Shang-Chi, and head writer Jessica Gao has confirmed that this now takes place a little after Shang-Chi. We've seen variations of the inhibitor before. In Captain Marvel, the Kree created a photon inhibitor to control Captain Marvel's cosmic powers. In X-Men, the inhibitor collar was in Days of Futures Past. Also in Deadpool 2, they use the collars to neutralize the mutants' powers. Inhibitor simply means to slow down or prevent a particular chemical reaction, which I believe ultimately Smart Hulk is doing to stay in Bruce form. Eating hot Cheetos with chopsticks is, I kid you not, the only way I'll eat them, and for the same exact reason. You don't want to get it on your fingers. Also, let us not forget who started this trend. When Jen said, "You're not the only genius in the family," Bruce retorts,
"No, there's also Chet."
At the end, we get to a montage of courtroom illustrations. This one says mom, dad, aunt, uncle, and cousin. I assume that Chet is the cousin. The uncle is wearing glasses. Mom and dad are on the right, so that leaves one of these last women as the aunt. This could be Cassandra Pike from the comics. Jen's aunt on her dad's side. She's a biologist and won a Nobel Prize for biology. She's also pretty evil in the comics. She tries to kill her brother and niece She-Hulk using her son, in this case Ched, after giving him injections to become a giant monster. So the quotes around aunt could stem from an unhappy relationship between the two.
Like us, Jen has some theories. Truly, all her theories are whether or not Steve Rogers had sex and when. Which, don't worry, we'll get into because the mid-credit scene is a doozy. We get a glimpse of the Sakaar ship. We later learn specifically it's a Sakarian Class A courier craft, a postman if you will, or someone serving a subpoena to Bruce, possibly. This could be from the Grandmaster. The ship in Thor Ragnarok, the Commodore, looked exactly like this. Either way, this ties to Thor Ragnarok, and I bet they're looking for their top-tier fighter after stealing the prize ship from the Grandmaster.
That's kind of what I was alluding to.
Into World War Hulk and Scar, son of Hulk.
After the Illuminati sent Hulk into space, away from Earth for being too reckless, he landed on Sakaar, creating a home there, even finding love and a wife. The ship he arrived on explodes, killing his pregnant wife and a lot of people.
Mark Ruffalo, he keeps talking about it. He's like, he keeps trying to manifest this World War Hulk thing, and I would love it. The Hulk has been, I gotta say, I just for me, I know not everybody, but like, he's got one of the worst arcs, I think, out of everything that's gone on in the MCU. I think what they've gone with his trajectory so far has, at least after Ragnarok, has been a little disappointing for me personally. But I'd be curious and excited to see them go down this road. I just don't know how that's going to work with Universal unless they make it the side plot or maybe substitute it in and compound it with another character. I don't know how the rights are with that now, but I know that in the past that Universal restricts their usage of the Hulk. That's why all of his stuff is happening in other people's movies. So one can hope. See if they can work around it.
Earth storms up a bunch of chaos and kills a ton of folks. It's revealed the child didn't actually die. He emerged from a cocoon. Scar is super sick, super hardcore, but
I just don't think that major scene would be
played
out in She-Hulk.
Does he have fingers on his head?
Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Where in the comics she was shot and we got a blood transfusion from Bruce, that changed Jennifer to She-Hulk. This is technically another type of blood transfusion.
I do like this better, I'll be honest, because the other one just seems like Banner, you think you would know. I know given the situation, life or death, you know, saving her is the only option. But it does put, I mean, that could create some conflict and tension between the two, obviously, because he's going to carry some guilt along with that. And he will hear, but this is no choice of anybody's that this happened. So, I don't know. I kind of like that.
Just not as thorough. This is great to note how strong Bruce's blood is, which yes, we already knew, but the fact that like most viruses die on the hint of mass oxygen, this clearly does not. And it can impair someone by a teaspoon's worth, be it the leader whose brain started acting weird in Incredible Hulk, or Blonsky, who with an already petri dish of other concoctions turned into abomination. Though Hulk's blood,
or the single drop that made it into that one bottle of soda that Stan Lee's cameo in the Hulk, Incredible Hulk film drank and got sick or whatever. You know, there is that.
Isn't the be-all, end-all superhero drug. The amount of gamma radiation in it is still lethal. So where it worked for She-Hulk, seeing as they share the rare genetic factor, it makes sense it would work on her. Shoot, it maybe works on her mom, but don't bet on any normal civilian every time. We get the sad shot of Jen, now She-Hulk, outline reflection on the green crushed door and her silhouette as she backs up and runs away into the forest like a crazed werewolf. This scene is so funny to me. The transformation scenes in most movies are. She awakens at Ideal Sports Bar. Very funny name for a sports bar. And also a real sports bar in Atlanta, Georgia. And Cricket's Rocks on Gas. In the MCU, the Roxxon Corporation has been seen in Loki during the storm. And the first Iron Man, they fought near the Roxxon Corporation building. In Agent Carter, it's revealed that they created the atomic bomb based on the formula by Howard Stark. In She-Hulk comics, She-Hulk prosecutes them when Danger Man accidentally falls into a vat of hard atomic water on the job. Roxxon is a huge, powerful petroleum industrial company, and they usually do a lot of shady stuff in the comics. Jen sneaks past the bouncer in the hallway. There's a sign that reads Ladies Night. When you actually use the QR code, it takes you to the Marvel website that offers you the first issue of She-Hulk free to read, along with some special promotion. Additionally, in the bathroom, there's some lovely graffiti. We have the Miss Marvel lightning bolt, which is funny because if this takes place during 2024, Miss Marvel takes place sometime in 2025, who pre-drew this? And in California, no less. Possibly someone anticipating the arrival.
I mean, it could just be, you know, it's just a fucking lightning bolt, or it could be a fancy little S. I don't know. But for us, I think it's a nice little nod. I think it's intentional, just to draw our eye to it. But in universe, probably not that big a deal to get hung up on.
Rival Miss Marvel, someone like Kang, who we will see in Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania, that'll probably take place in California. Kang just stopped by this dive bar and on his way to Northern California and straight up graffitied the crap out of it. We see Rest in Peace Biggie from Biggie Smalls, if you don't know. Don't Stop, Get It, used in tons of songs, but I think its origins are by Luke, I Wanna Rock. I know this because Two Live Crew remixed it. Don't listen to either if you're under 18. A little spider, not to Spider-Man. If you sprinkle when you tinkle, be a sweetie, wipe the seedy. And then the infamous Sword of Anarchy symbol, infamous 420 with a peace sign and a zero. Not a single Thanos is right in sight. It's ladies' night, and what's ladies' night without a bunch of ladies helping ladies in the bathroom? I can't tell you how many ladies' nights I've been to where it becomes a drunk girls' night out in the bathroom. Those people become my best friends immediately, just like these helpful bunch, played by Monica Garcia Bradley, Tiffany Denise Hobbs, Tony Bryce, and Ariana Marie Hagen. I love these Atlantan queens, and I'm so happy they're showcasing supportive women, just women helping women. We need that. Yeah, She-Hulk donned a Led Zeppelin t-shirt, and I think those are swim trunks. We can assume these are Tony's clothes, seeing as Tony loved rock and roll. The Black Sabbath t-shirt in the first Iron Man, he's in a small truck with soldiers listening to AC/DC's Back in Black. He listens to AC/DC a lot. Plus, they're on the coast of Mexico at a beach house.
And he helped them build this.
These little glimpses and reminders he'll never be forgotten tear me apart in the show. As Jen walks out to this beautiful, rich beachfront estate, we see some little Tony Hulk treasures, like the Iron Legion armor droid helmet from Age of Ultron. I suspect this is the helmet Ultron is first seen wearing. It matches the degree of damage. In the movie, they also remove their mask when the machine laser beamed their eyes, so I'm thinking it's just the junk pieces from that moment. Behind her, peep the subtle helmet there. That's Hulk's helmet he wore in the ring during Thor Ragnarok. It's insane he still has it. It's also not the only piece of swag brought back from Sakaar, I suspect, but we'll get back into that in just a moment. We also see a sand hourglass, some boats, driftwood art, maybe for the sandy beach aesthetic. It's definitely their relaxed spot. Tony Stein's bunker is insane. This is where Bruce spent the 18 months fixing himself. Look at all the Stark equipment, the similar gear used to monitor Hawkeye and Age of Ultron. Ultron when he was getting new tissue. In the first Iron Man, the gear behind him when he's asking Pep to take out his heart. As Voss said in the trailer breakdown, we see the X-ray of Jen's brain. We have different vials of Jen's green blood lying around. While she was out, he was able to get blood, X-rays, literally everything. We also see the schematics of the inhibitor behind him. This slow zoom when Jen mentions she's changed, realizing she's a Hulk, is so fun, and for the visual storytelling enhances the emotion of the scene. And I love when movies do it, like we're creating the same chaotic realization for both the character and the audience. It's also so dramatic, unnecessarily dramatic. We find out that Jen and Bruce share a rare combination of genetic factors, so like I said earlier, what would have been a lethal dose for most was not for Jen. Jen's blood is slightly different. The way it synthesizes gamma radiation was able to fully heal Bruce's arm. When channeling a distressed emotion, Jen offers Pixar's Inside Out. The scene, spoiler, when Bing Bong dies.
I don't know.
Okay, it's traumatic. He's a friend that likes to play. I can't listen to it.
I've not seen this movie.
We also see the Saws, Stark Industry, and Jen's right. What psycho has this torture bunker? You normally use this chamber for, you psychopath! When Bruce says casually how he changes back to Bruce form is by falling out of a plane like in the first Avengers, or he gets knocked out by a robot as Tony as Hulkbuster, or Natasha with—
It's just so funny because other than Natasha, all of it is completely involuntary.
Tell him a lullaby, both in Age of Ultron. Hey, big guy, sun's getting real low. He mentions his time on Sakaar, him being stuck as Hulk for 2 years during Thor Ragnarok. All these callbacks are worth going back and watching because I just love them. Dialectical behavior therapy is a psychotherapy that started with treating personality disorder and interpersonal conflict. In this case, definitely being a Hulk. And a reminder, Hulk participated in yoga to help him in Incredible Hulk. He mentions Jen reverts back to Jen form when she sleeps, which is also what she did in the comics in very funny ways. Like when she wakes up from having men over and has to revert back before they notice. If stress and high heart rate changes you into Hulk form, it would make sense when you're unconscious, you revert back to your normal self. The song playing is Fast Motion by my girl Saweetie. She's active in this video, sprinting, playing soccer, football, cheerleading. It's all about the hype and hard work, just like what Bruce got Jen about to be doing, effortlessly, I might add. Get ready for these lady pump-up jams. Let's go through the physical skills he teaches Jen. I love their competitive nature, but also that boulder that Hulk just tossed is gonna be a meteor to some poor ship or planet.
I didn't even think about that. That's assuming it doesn't burn up on exit. But still, can things burn up on exit? I know they burn up on re-entry.
His infamous jump or leap, if you will. We've seen it done many a times in Age of Ultron when he saves Natasha or when he saves Tony mid-fall in the first Avengers movie. What I love about this scene is where Smart Hulk is taking this seriously, Jen is like, this is easy, and makes fun of him the complete time. Balance. And yoga, which Jen is now full-fledged pro at.
This Hulk ground pound, which to me, Jen looks much better at, just saying.
Bruce says,
Jen, when you have powers like this, it's like putting a target on your back and the backs of all the people you care about.
Which is so true. I know she's upset at this point, but in the comics, this is how her best friend died. In 1980 run of She-Hulk, Jill Stevens offered to help all the time when it came to her best friend Jennifer Walters. At a neighbor's barbecue, Jen got a call to come pick up some stuff from the DA's office. Jill offered to pick it up instead. Once she left, they realized it was a trap, and unfortunately, they cut Jen's brake lines in the car, and in a horrible collision, Jill died. Jill does resemble Nikki Ramos in She-Hulk series, but I don't think it's her, and I don't want it to be her. But for story purposes, it might be good if she dies. Smart Hulk is making the world's largest martini, and like Steve Rogers, it takes too much to get these two drunk. And cool, you'll always be buzzed, but never drunk. I drink to get drunk, you guys. Also, this sounds so
See, I don't understand, and I'm not like, I don't fucking know the science behind getting drunk and all that stuff, or metabolizing it, or whatever. I'm just like, my initial thought, I could be completely off, and I'd love to know if any of you guys have, like, you know, knowledge in this sphere. But like my thought is if they're metabolizing it so fast, how do they even feel it at all? Wouldn't it just be like a really awful tasting drink? Like, cause he says all buzz, no barf, and I'm kind of shocked that they would even feel the buzz if it's being processed out of their system so fast. I don't know. Let me know.
Expensive. Is it even worth it? From a later shot, there's about 30
That's
empty
also
bottles.
what I said. I was like, that just like, it's breaking your wallet, man.
Some are wine bottles, but regardless, if each bottle is $20, give or take, that's around $600 wasted. Okay, I'm done being irritated, but this logically just doesn't make sense, and I want them to stop. It's a waste of money. Whatever. Behind Hulk is a Hulk piñata, perhaps a souvenir from the celebration of Hulk on Sakaar. They had the helmet earlier, we saw the ship, we're keeping Sakaar on the back burner always. Later, we see a different angle from the bar where we see another cutout of Hulk. Smug Hulk, am I right? We see the initials BB for Bruce Banner and TS for Tony Stark carved into the bar. Bruce gets into the time he spent with Tony creating the bar, which was during the blip. And it's sad to reminisce, but I think we're getting to a spot in the MCU when thinking of Tony shouldn't make you sad, you lost him, but happy at the memories they got to make with him. A good time during a hard time, which She-Hulk is adjusting to as well. We get the Hulk thunderclap. We last saw him using this in Incredible Hulk. This move extinguished fire, turned boulders to rubble, smacks the crap out of your foes. The thunderclap shockwave destroyed, and it's fun seeing both Hulk and She-Hulk using it, though She-Hulk's feels like a thunder applause. Thank you, I'll be here all night. Jen breaks the fourth wall again, this time as She-Hulk, but this time Hulk hears her, and maybe she'll start to recognize you can't just do that anywhere. Like in Fleabag, people notice, and in Fleabag season 2, the priest interacts with her, interacting with the camera. He acknowledges it a lot, so perhaps later down the line, we can see someone close to her recognizing what she's doing. Just added fun. Jen is now carving her name into the rebuilt bar, now called Bruce's Bar. The two have settled down and enjoy their hot Cheetos with chopsticks. I think it's cute that Hulk's are party size. Again, his metabolism is hefty. He's always eating small amounts. The tiny tacos in Endgame, the party size bag of chips. Just get this man a damn buffet. Am I allowed to curse in this? We pan out of the shot from the courtroom illustrator to see GLKH giving their closing statements to Judge Price, who we see in the recent trailers and recognize as being transformed into an Asgardian type elf. So if that's still Judge Price is beyond me right now, but the defendant is played by Brandon Hirsch. We also get our first look at Holden Holloway, played by Steve Coulter. Titania is seen busting through the courtroom, played by Jamil. Titania in the comics has hated She-Hulk from basically the jump because she wins time and time again one-on-one with She-Hulk. But I suspect with the other trailer footage where we see Titania everywhere, she was hired to break through the courtroom so they could see Jennifer Walters change to She-Hulk. Like I said earlier, I think it was all orchestrated by Holden Holloway, who is a shady f***ing man. Should I try saying shady man? Keep the F out? You can blur it. We'll bleep it. Jen punches Titania into next week and she slips her heels back on, ready to give her closing statement to a damn classic by Eve, Who's That Girl? It's such a bop. Basically the song announcing the Queen Bee has just arrived and you're all gonna wonder who she is. In the credits, we see a courtroom-like illustration montage, one of which is a board-like presentation by Jen to Hulk at Bruce's bar, piecing together whether or not Captain America is a virgin. Links to Peggy Carter, a faceless woman, and then what we can expect is a USO showgirl. And so let's get into this. Jen, fake drunk, gets smart Hulk to spill some beans on Steve Rogers being a virgin. They even call back to the gorgeous Steve Rogers' butt.
Did you see that ass? Like, that ass did not deserve to die a virgin.
It's revealed he does indeed get down. He lost his virginity to a girl in 1943 on the USO tour. Now, Jen's presentation may lead you to believe it was a USO dance girl, but I think that she thinks that the unnamed 1940s girl was either a dancer or a random woman. I think it's Laura Haddock, aka the autograph seeker in Captain America's first movie, aka Star-Lord's mom. Laura Haddock played Meredith Quill as well. The two roles are not related at all, I don't think. Meredith Quill was born in 1961. This girl was an adult by the 40s. But come on, the scene's too on the nose. They definitely hooked up. I mean, I would. That's everything I spotted in the first episode of She-Hulk. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at
I really liked her energy on this,
Subscribe to New
It was a lot of fun.
For more breakdowns of everything you love.
Not afraid to let the mouth fly, man. I love it. That's the kind of energy I can respect. Not that I don't respect Eric. He's still baby mouth good boy. But yes. At least in the breakdowns. All right. That said, let's move on to the VFX analysis. And then
Welcome
we'll
back
talk
to
about
New
everything.
Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and She-Hulk Episode 1 sets a high bar to clear as it introduces to the MCU, in many ways, the most challenging VFX character to pull off, especially amidst a time when Marvel Studios' approach to VFX artistry is being critiqued. But now that the first episode is here, I would say it mostly sticks the landing, thanks largely to Tatiana Maslany's charisma, her chemistry with Mark Ruffalo as her cousin Bruce Banner, and when you break down the visuals of this episode closely, some really clever camera work by the director Kakuro and a team of talented VFX artists working in tandem to pull off this illusion. So let's go back through this episode to discuss these visual maneuvers, how they manipulate the psychology of the viewer, and how well each of them work. It's not all of them do, but that's okay. We're still grateful to have shows with green characters to talk about. She-Hulk Episode 1 starts with Jen Walters practicing a closing argument, then flashes back to her getting her powers. Actually, head writer Jessica Gao revealed to Variety that most of this pilot flashback was going to be in Episode 8, but they decided late in the process to move up Jen's origin story earlier in the season. Gao said that led them to have to cut around and remove many shots of Jen hulking out in episode 1 because there was now no way for the VFX artist to finish those shots in time. While this change leads to some oddly edited action with She-Hulk in this episode, it's pretty cool to find all the clever ways that they worked around it. Like, notice the prominence of the color green in the set design for the first 5 minutes. The walls of Jen's office are a pale green, the lush wooded area they drive through, and the color of her car. So that when she takes in Bruce's blood, we initially see her vague reflection in the dented green car door, forming a kind of green colored funhouse mirror to mask her actual physical transformation. But the first close-up we get of Jen as She-Hulk comes when she hulks out on those skeevy guys outside the bar. This is an incredibly tightly edited 7 seconds. Check it out.
Oh, what? You too good to talk to us?
Yeah, notice how we hardly have any time to take in Jen's new superpowered form, which is just unusual for this genre. Whenever Marvel reveals their new heroes,
I like it because it was more like a monster movie
things
kind
down
of
and just take their time, like the mighty
it.
Thor, Jane Foster in Love and Thunder, Moon Knight in the bathroom in episode 1, Sam Wilson as the new Captain America in the season finale of The Falcon Winter Soldier. Even Kamala Khan got kind of a slow motion leap with her embiggened hand in her first episode. But here it's like, no, don't look. It's barely 2 seconds before Jen gets tackled. And by the way, she gets tackled by Hulk.
I mean, I like that specifically because this is like the first night of her transformations, and like she had the whole like werewolf running through the woods thing. She stumbles upon this place, she's getting harassed by these dudes, and it's just a pure like instinctual explosion of emotion, and you know she had to be stopped at that moment. Who knows what would have went down otherwise, until she can collect herself later, as we've seen. But I don't know. I think it works for the vibe they were going through. I didn't find that jarring at all. I think the only bit I thought was somewhat jarring was the courtroom scene, which obviously kind of touched upon. I might touch upon here a little bit more later.
That happens so fast, it's hard to tell that it is Hulk tackling her. But that said, the brief frames we do see of Jen, the VFX artist did a really good job with her face. Her brow is furrowed in rage, little wrinkles over her nose,
very
her
detailed.
head is sweaty. There has been a ton of talk about She-Hulk's appearance, her face, her height, the musculature of her form. The director, Kat Corro, told Screen Rant that unlike Hulk, a character who can look like a monster, She-Hulk has to fit into the human world. She goes on dates, she goes to work. To pull off creating this character in this physical space, they used a stand-in, Malia Araya, who is 6'7", and when it came to She-Hulk's silhouette, instead of looking at bodybuilders, they based her on slimmer, yet still super strong Olympian athletes and ballet dancer Misty Copeland. But there's an added challenge with the creation of She-Hulk's face. Actors like Mark Ruffalo and Josh Brolin have heavy jawlines and just very specific facial features that allow them to be mapped onto a non-human skull and still retain the essence of their facial performance. But with She-Hulk, Jennifer Walters can't look like a Cro-Magnon. She must retain Tatiana Maslany's attractive physical features. And this challenge is compounded by viewers like us being so accustomed to seeing female characters on screen wearing foundation and makeup, smoother surfaces, which is a huge problem when you consider that VFX artists tend to rely on those kind of imperfections, blemishes, bumps, wrinkles, and stubble to heighten the photorealism. It's really hard to make just a smooth surface look photorealistic. But again, in this episode, they work around it in some really interesting ways. In Bruce's basement lab, they just nail the eye line with Tatiana Maslany looking up so high at Hulk so that she just looks like his kid sister, until this one moment when Jen begins to hyperventilate and Bruce lowers to her level, making us think that Jen is about to Hulk out in size, but really this is just a setup to the cut to joke of her just being hungry. And during this scene, they have a really good mix.
I love their bond and the relationship. Like in that moment, I know he's like concerned obviously because she's now hulking and stuff, but that seemed like genuine concern just for her well-being, her, you know, his family or whatever, when he was like, are you okay? What do you need? I don't know. I just like that little moment. I liked all their moments in this, especially the competitive nature between
mix of practical props and VFX with Hulk's binder. His massive fingers flipping through its pages, making this binder a kind of visual metaphor for the burden of being a Hulk. For Bruce, this thick binder is really just a small flip book. As for him, his self-actualization is complete. But from Jen's perspective, it is a massive stack of paperwork. Even for a lawyer, one of the biggest binders she's ever seen, representing how this coming transition is a major shift for her. Now later, when Bruce realizes Jen does not have an alter ego, he tears out that whole first section of the binder that you'll notice is labeled alter ego, showing how Jen is already making this burdensome token smaller and more digestible for her. Now, when Bruce has put Jen in that torture chamber, notice how we see her reflection, smaller, framed within Hulk's larger form through the glass. Why do they do this? Well, it's because the editing of the sequence, again, cuts around Jen's actual transformation. We never really see it. We just see her green hand suddenly flattening those saws, and then we see her from behind as she smashes through the door. But since we had that critical before shot, we now have this nice contrast with her matching Hulk in height now, so that her brain just kind of fills in the difference. Now, this moment in the lab is really the first extended looks we get of Jen's hulked out form in close-up. And notice how these shots are at their best when they simply recreate subtle physical choices that Tatiana Maslany makes. For example,
yeah, it kind of seems like I'm done here.
Not so fast.
Yeah, notice her bored grimace and the awkward fist tap. The more specific of physical choices and gestures that the actor makes, the more specific of a reference that the animators have, and the more lifelike the final product comes off. There's an even subtler moment here.
Fine. Teach me how to Hulk, please.
Yeah, Maslany does this subtle flutter of her eyelid, like someone having an angry tick. It's just a perfect way of showing how this character is using her simmering frustration to fuel her ability to stay big and green right now. Now, the next morning are just a few really good examples of VFX interacting with the physical environment to make it all feel.
If they were cutting around some of this stuff, that might make sense with him being like, you know, because there was a scene where she was Jen again, then she was Hulk, and then she was Jen, and then Jen again in 2 scenes. And then he's like, oh, you do revert when you sleep and stuff like that, implying that he had yet to see her revert back, or I don't know. I was like, it seemed like so odd to me. I was like, you just saw how she changed back before, and maybe that was why. I don't know. There was something a little weird about that whole transition, that scene, at least to me whenever I watched it.
Seamless. Like, notice how when Jen is hungover, Bruce pats her head, his VFX hand moves her physical hair, and she says, ow.
Ow.
Which is a fun joke because she's saying ow, both because she's hungover, and as gentle as Bruce was with Buzzball, he still hurt her. Also, I love this. When Jen tries to leave and goes to the garage, her shorter height allows her to pass under the blinds, but in this same shot, Hulk Bruce has to lift them up, and in doing so, he knocks the blinds askew. You probably noticed how Jen also has to move the seat up way closer to the steering wheel and sit on her bag to give herself a boost, since of course this Jeep would be customized for Hulk's size. I also like how it is completely covered in mud, because as we saw when Bruce got a ride into New Asgard in Endgame, he weighs down vehicles and likely causes this Jeep to kick up more mud than it normally would. And as Jen tries to run over, there's another good example of Maslany in a reflection over Bruce's face. Notice how it's her eyes in the rear view mirror directly over Hulk's face. Little detail here, as they fight, Jen's thunderclaps look like a sonic cannon, like the kind that was designed by Stark Tech in the 2008 Hulk film, one thing known to slow down or subdue the Hulk. Now there is a moment after they hug it out that's a little awkward. Notice how Jen leaves her arms outstretched just a little too long, suggesting that they might have directed Tatiana Maslany to pantomime hugging giant shoulders, but of course the actor wouldn't have had a reference for how long to leave her arms up.
I'm not sure what to do with my hands.
Like, it's not that big of a deal, and really I think we can chalk it up to this just
was
being
a great choice
an
of
attorney
clip right
and
there.
a competitive cousin who would be a bad hugger. Now the final duel with Titania in the courtroom I think might suffer the most from this episode not having enough shots of She-Hulk to work with, because really it feels like an edited montage of a fight than an actual movie fight. We get these chaotic back-to-back shots of Jen and Titania throwing desks without those characters really being anywhere near desks in the shots before. A desk falls on Titania, but we never see her crawl out from under that desk. Just a shot of her randomly leaping into a jump kick, a kick that must miss Jen completely, because Jen does not even have to step to the side or turn even to punch Titania across the room. So yeah, but hey, considering they had to completely reconstruct this pilot
I don't care,
episode,
man. It was fun as fuck.
Whole creative team for
I thought it was
coming up with
hilarious.
such an enjoyable introduction to the newest Avenger of the MCU, and finally someone who can match the Hulk in strength. Tatiana Maslany is just a natural superhero, and I cannot wait to see her join the others to take on Kang and all the other threats of the MCU, and of course to watch the next 8 episodes. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EAVoss. Follow New Rockstars.
Follow Into Rockstars, guys. 2 great little videos. Now, I don't know if he's going to do something like this for every episode, but if so, we're only going to cover the breakdowns after this. This was just like a one-off because of what I had read on Twitter about the first episode and episode 8 being kind of like switched around and whatnot, and also because we were late getting to this, so thought it would be fun to put in a little bit of extra for everybody. But I like these breakdowns, man. The nice little details laid out throughout the episode I thought was really strong at just kind of connecting a lot of the Hulk legacy together. Even like things like hinting back and echoing all the way back to Ed Norton's Hulk and stuff like that, and moving forward into this, the stuff from his journey to Sakaar, his time there as a gladiator, like little pieces that his relationship with Tony literally being part of the foundation of his little hideaway. Their initials carved into it, and now with Jen's added as well with the reconstructed one after their little bout with each other, her wanting to just go back to her life, him trying to keep her away from that, and also projecting a lot of the struggles that came with his turn to Hulk that she's not having. She's got a whole different set of that to deal with, which I'm sure she'll learn over the course of this. But I really liked their banter. I really liked I thought the VFX was, honestly, it surprised me with how good some of it was. And I wasn't expecting much from this. It's a full CGI character. That is difficult. And on a show budget, not like Infinity War budget or in-game budget, it wasn't going to bother me if it was a little hokey here and there. Unlike some people who were just like throwing a fit over what we saw in that first trailer. The first trailer, sure, it wasn't perfect, but like it definitely didn't bother me. And had it stayed around that quality, I probably still wouldn't be that bothered with this show. But with that expectation going into this from those initial trailers that we had seen, I thought they really turned it up on the scenes they did give us. And apparently there was a lot more that they were going to try to do, and a lot of last minute decisions that kind of made them have to play around with the configuration. And honestly, a lot of it blew by me. Aside from that courtroom scene, but I thought that was just to set the pace and the tone a little bit. It was a little weird because it was like really quick, but I thought that was just the vibe they were going for. I thought it was just kind of fucking hilarious, to be honest, that it was just over that fast, and it was just so zany with the flying drop kick and all that, and then her just getting cratered into the wall. I didn't really think much of it. The only scene in the show that really threw me for a loop at all was like I had mentioned, was the one where he had talked about what turns her back into Jen, as if he literally wasn't just talking to normal Jen like the day before. So I was a little thrown off by that choice of edit during that scene. Like the scene, I think just before the air horn going up to Jen's head, I feel like there was definitely something that was supposed to be in between that whole segment that got probably cut out if they were removing things that specifically had hulked out Jen in it in this episode, which seemed to be the case. But like the opening introduction into her transformation of the cage, like hiding it, masking it from these different angles, I thought worked really well, especially considering it starts off, and the Hulk as a character in general has that like werewolf, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of quality to it, where that transition, it's not like the heroic reveal most of the time. It's this thing that's kind of got to have a little bit of like a bit of tension behind it. You know, it's not this heroic pose, I just got my new suit or whatever, you know, I've suited up for the first time. It's not quite the same thing for me, and I like that it was masked in that way in that first initial shot, obscured when she first was shown looking in the reflection of the door, and then when she goes off and Hulk's out at those dudes harassing her, and Hulk just dive bombs her out of the way. I thought that was quick and justified the kind of reaction for what it's like, or what those initial experiences are typically like for characters like this. I thought it worked thematically with how they did it, especially transitioning into that persona being a gut reaction to danger and rising emotions to a formulated character in the scene with the cage and the saws, because that scene transitions from that same monster kind of werewolf vibe to you see, and then you see her pull out of it when she's revealed, and we see her from the front, and then she's approaching Bruce, and then she collects and starts having a conversation with him, and he realizes that she's in there. It's not an alter ego or anything like that. That's the realization that this is a different type of thing, or we've already breached that little hurdle already with her character. I think that maybe that wasn't the intention, but I think it reads that way for somebody who's seen a lot of horror and stuff like that and a lot of werewolf shit. I feel like that just kind of like vibed and meshed really well. And it sounds like that wasn't the intent, but I think it worked. Honestly, at least for me, I thought that really jived really well. But yeah, I love the whole episode. I thought it was a lot of fun. And I can't wait to really, with the origin out of the way, I really can't wait to just kind of let it kind of dive into. And it just makes me really wonder what the initial plan was for the first episode. If the origin wasn't going to be till the penultimate episode, I'm so confused at why that choice was even the original idea. I'm confused by that. I would love to know your all's thoughts or theories on that one, because that until we maybe get some behind the scenes or breakdown, or we find out what the new episode 8 is actually going to be, now that they've moved things around, I'm just really curious as to the decision behind that structuring. And I'd love to know what the original first episode was kind of going to be. Maybe it was just the whole courtroom case. She was already Hulk and all that stuff, and maybe unless the finale has something to do with that Sicarian ship. And that tied it back into her origin. If there's a big Sicarian fuck all at the end of this season, I don't know. That's just me spitballing, trying to logic my way around this. But anyway, guys, I'd love to know your thoughts. What were your thoughts on the first episode? What are your thoughts on the breakdown? Did you find anything that they might have missed? Sound off the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. Check out my reaction if you haven't already. Subscribe, stick around, check out New Rockstars, subscribe to them if you're not already. Support their content, their videos, and their channel is down below in the description as well as all my links and socials and all that jazz. But before we go, I want to shout out our channel legends, Manny Share, Ryan Kerr, Jason Coleman, Philly Vane, Yori Corey Scott, Margaret Grace, Mary Bradley, Melita, Robert Anguiano, and Raven McGann. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. That's it for this video, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody.